Thank you. Joining me live now is Barrister Greg Barnes, who is an advisor to the Australian Assange campaign. Greg, thanks so much for your time. First of all, this process underway as we speak right now. Jennifer Robinson has told me that she expects this to take anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. Can you give us an idea of what is going to go on in the court as we speak right now?
Well, look, my understanding is that it's a plea agreement. The court has to be satisfied as to the requirements, whether the requirements have been met, and those processes can take some time. I don't think there's any expectation that something will go wrong, but you never know until the court process is finalised.
We've been hearing a lot of reaction out of the United States, and it's perhaps more divided as we anticipated yesterday. Still, a fair amount of politicians do not regard Julian Assange as a journalist. They regard him as an activist. What do you make of all that?
Well, we don't agree. I mean, we've always said he was doing what journalists do every day, and that is to reveal and lift the lid on what governments get up to around the world, and including in their own countries. And that's the important point. Whether he's a journalist or a publisher doesn't matter in that sense. But what does matter is the fact that he's now coming back to Australia, and most Australians felt that this matter had gone on long enough.
There is some fig leaf that I think politicians in the US are clinging on to this morning, and that is Julian Assange right now is finally admitting guilt, even if it is just one felony charge. You happy for them to hold on to that?
Well, look, no, I mean, in the sense that he was facing 170 years plus if he had been found guilty of all of the counts that had been were before the US courts. And so this resolution should be seen, I think, as the strength of the Australian-US alliance, that Australia can maintain pressure, put pressure on and maintain pressure, and expect that the US will respond to Australia's entreaties when an Australian is in trouble overseas.
I mean, this is how I see it, and I wonder if you agree with me, Greg, and that is that after a 14-year saga, 5 years in a maximum security prison in London, finally this plea deal for Julian Assange to admit to one felony charge in order to secure his freedom, that is a quid pro quo for him in many ways, right?
Well, I think plea agreements, as a lawyer, I can say plea agreements are often a quid pro quo, but, for someone to endure 14 years for revealing war crimes committed by the United States in Iraq in particular is outrageous. And this case should never have been brought. But he's now got an opportunity to get on with his life, be reunited with his family and get his health back.
Greg, perhaps a simplistic question, and too simplistic. Why did it take so long?
Well, I think, that the extradition processes sometimes take a long time. There were a number of appeals, but I think it did require the Australian government to step up and get this matter resolved. And Anthony Albanese and the cross-party support groups who have been instrumental in getting this done have put increased pressure on over the past couple of years. This could have been done by Australian governments previously and wasn't.
And what about his legal team? I mentioned Jen Robinson before. I can see her right there on my screen. She entered the courthouse with him today. How instrumental has she and the legal team around him been?
Well, I think his legal team's done a great job. I mean, it's been a very difficult case. They've taken these cases through the UK courts, and they've done very well. They've got I think the UK court was very troubled recently by statement from the US, the argument from the US that because he's not an American citizen, he couldn't, as of right, rely on the First Amendment, the Freedom of Speech Amendment. In other words, he was going to be discriminated against because he wasn't an American citizen. So I think his lawyers have done a great job. What
happens now, Greg? Any insight?
Well, I think it's a matter for Julian, and certainly his wife Stella, I think, has indicated his first thing to do is get his health back. He'll be no doubt reunited with his brother Gabriel and his father John, who have done members of our team and have done a remarkable job in traversing the world, literally, to push the cause of their family member, and they have been successful, and they should be.
Did you think you'd ever see this day, Greg?
Well, I did. I think over the last couple of years when the pressure came on, this was a test, I think, of the Australia-US relationship and, the genuineness of that relationship. And I, always thought that there would be some common sense and justice in this case.
He looks remarkably well. We haven't heard from him yet after 5 years in a tiny cell for 23 hours a day. That would test a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And it's going to take some adjustment, absolutely, and a lot of interest in hearing from him. But were you surprised to see how physically well he is? Can you give us any insight as to his frame of mind?
Well, look, other than that, he was too unwell to appear at the last two court hearings. His health needs to improve, and Stella has said that. And I know from clients that I've acted for who've been in maximum security prisons for long periods of time, it takes a toll.
Indeed. Greg Barnes, thanks so much for talking to us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura.